to record to the cloud. Hi, thank you all for being here. This is the Surfliner sprint review and demo for the first sprint of our present work cycle, our first work cycle in 2024. Yay, go team. This was Comet Sprint 30 and Daylight Sprint 1. So I want to start by talking about what we have been doing with Daylight work. And I'm actually just going to go ahead and grab a pull request here. So an important thing about the way we've been thinking about Daylight over the last 6 months or so, and I guess I should say to start, that Daylight is the code name for the Surfliner work that we're doing to support general purpose digital collections discovery. And the way that we're thinking about this work is that the output is probably not an application that we both try to ship in the way that most of our other Surfliner projects are. We think that in practice, what's going to happen is that both campuses are going to need to be responsive to stakeholder needs for discovery front-end needs in a way that changes more rapidly and doesn't sort of yield to the sorts of collaborative decision making that we need to make on Surfliner projects. So our thinking is that what we would like to have is a pattern for putting Daylight data into, for publishing data from Comet into a discovery index, and then a set of patterns and quite likely a set of sort of like components that can be built into a web application. So, for instance, I might want to have an easy way to get customized faceting for different fields in my system, and that's what specifically the facets are, and how the theming should be done are probably local decisions, but the kinds of choices that we might make to configure a facet interface are likely things that we're building together. So the way that we've been approaching the technical work on Daylight so far is that we've built a test application, which we're sort of at the stage of trying now to get deployed, that is serving out the sort of baseline, let's have a rubber duck for talking about how these things work together, and for testing how we'll build them. And then we're doing a project of trying to deploy independent micro front ends that provide some of those services, and get them sort of like injected or embedded into that application. So we're in the pretty early stages of exploring this. This is the first sprint that we've done any technical work on it. But I can show you the sort of basic. We have a static front end deploys for a couple of little fake front ends. A logo goes here. So this is a little like empty header component that's serving out independently. And this is just a basic proof of concept. This one just says hello world at you. And what we did that's probably interesting, or that at least is interesting to me about this, is that we
Amazon,
the
sorry to interrupt, but I think we might have been on still stuck
um,
on the ticket tab. We didn't get the other
we're
screen
still
there.
stuck on the ticket tab. Okay.
Apologies for the interruption there.
No, yeah, thank you for interrupting. I'm just like demoing you this in the wrong window is what's happening. Um, so yeah, so here's a sort of like empty or baseline bare bones header. Obviously the styling is a little like a logo goes here. I can barely read the contrast, but you can see the idea. And then we have another one that's deployed. The thing that's interesting about these is that we have a pattern for sort of deploying them in bulk. So the technical architecture that's planned here is like I have a single application that serves that's sort of managing the data situation and probably also serves out the baseline uh, structure for the pages. But then each of the components that make up uh, the actual UI feature set are independently managed and deployed separately, so that campuses can make decisions like if you want a different header, you just deploy a different header and point the application at it. And this is a nice pattern for the problem set that we have. And mainly what we've been doing this first daylight sprint is exploring what it would be like to follow it through. Um, so that's daylight. Does anybody have anything they want to add about daylight sprint one? I'm thinking especially that Elisa or Margaret might have something to say, or on a more strategic level, Michael, that you might have something to say.
I don't think I have anything to add. In the daylight header instance, the one thing I prepped in that web component is the ability to customize styling so that when we get to this next stage, we'll be able to actually clearly see where the logo will go, as the logo can be passed over like a prop to the component.
Thank you. So the next step on daylight is going to be getting these little micro front ends injected into an actual application. Whether that's the application that we actually use or not is another question. And then getting data published from Comet into it, so that we have the sort of end-to-end all figured out. And then from there, it's probably like a lot of kicking feature sets around and getting feedback about them. Okay, so that's daylight. Let's talk Comet. So this was Comet Sprint 29. And our focus this sprint was continued to be on batch behaviors. So we worked on bulk racks import again. And I want to demo a quick import of bulk racks from bulk racks so that we, let's call this 240227 sprint review 1. And we'll upload a file. Well, let me make sure that I have saved. Yes, okay, perfect. So I'm going to upload a CSV that I've prepared, and this CSV contains 3 collections and 6 objects with various visibilities and not like super much beyond that. Let's do a create and import. We did some work in the off cycle on object relationships, and so that's part of what I'm going to demo here. We fixed a bug this sprint that was about, so these validated okay. Cool. Let's do that. And we've got objects coming through. Let's give them a second to do that. So sorry, we fixed a bug this sprint that was about getting visibility set correctly. So I've seeded some visibilities into this demo here. We do have also the collection relationships, which should come off here. Okay. I do want to flag folks that I found. This is just, this link format is bizarre. I don't know exactly why that's happening, but this collection did get ingested, and it does have that ID. It's just like dashboard collection.7497 is not a thing. I think we did just get this. Yeah, 7498, perfect. So yeah, so we've ingested 3 collections. We've ingested various objects in with visibilities. This also works with this sort of relationship setup. Also works with file sets, and there's an open ticket about using a similar structure to do like nested structured metadata, like dates, complex dates, or other cases like that. So I think we'll probably do work on that in the next sprint as well. Our objects came through. I'll remind you that objects imported in bulk come through into the sort of initial workflow state for whichever workflow is active on the project they're ingested to. And it is possible at this stage for me to individually move those objects through the workflow. But I can also pop back to the dashboard and go to workflow tasks. This isn't a new page at this point. You all have seen it before, but we did work on 2 new features for this bulk workflow stack. What did I name this? I think we should open a ticket also for making this search box. It's obviously not super easy to do this. Like this list of importers will grow and grow. So it should be possible, I think, to more easily spot your new importer. I called this 2024 sprint review. Is it not in here?
I thought you just had your mouse over it. It's down there at the bottom-ish.
Way at the bottom.
Up.
Oh,
There.
here we go. Thank you. Yeah, so I can at this stage filter by my importer and by my workflow state. And if I wanted to manage a couple of objects very specifically, looks great. Great job. So I'll approve that one. And I'll put, oh, is that the same one? Let's do a different one. So this one got approved. That's that collection page. Yeah, and this one, let's request changes for. They're all duplicate files, but this one we noticed is a duplicate file. Just for your edification. So it should, I don't think that this repopulates automatically. But there you go. I can now like see just the ones that were in review, or I can go back. And it is now possible for me to update these in bulk. And if we can now see we have the one, oh, did that one just not make it? No, it just needed a second. So those, they update in the background. So the one that we requested changes on, one that we completed independently, and then one that we've put back into needs review, and I can, let's do, there she is, and I can do update workflow on one or more objects this way. The main thing that we added to this sprint is this ability to filter by importer. So that's neat. We think that that's a common way that end users will work with this page. So I'll do an import, and then I'll work with it from there. We also think that it's common. It will be common for collections or workflows to be managed at a project level. So the idea there would be, I make a project, I might do multiple imports into it over time, depending on, like, say, a vendor supplying files, or a digitization lab is creating new material consistently, and we're importing it in bulk occasionally. And our plan is then to add a filter like this one that filters by project, so that you can also choose to filter this whole stack of workflow tasks based on the project that things were ingested to, rather than just to the importer. This is the basic outline of how we picture bulk workflow working. Is you have this feature set where you can select groups of content that have like states, and or that at least it's possible for me to move into the same target state, and then select them and move them around. Okay, so that's bulk workflow. And I have one, I think I just have one more little Comet demo. 2024 Sprint View 2. And we can grab file 2. And if I create and validate, this one I've seeded with some bad data. And the point here is just to show that validation is now showing us multiple errors. The formatting on this isn't super clear. I found it hard to notice that there were two here, like one line. But importantly, you can see that the object on row 5 is missing a title. It should have at least one title, and it does not. Object on row 6 is likewise missing a title. We did some pretty significant work in the off cycle on making the infrastructure that supports this validation much easier to work with and add validations to. So we're working next on opening tickets. The file that I put in here has some like visibilities that are off vocabulary that like aren't valid visibilities. And if I did try to ingest it. Like if I added the titles and tried to ingest it, it would succeed validation, but then fail on import because it doesn't know what like fake visibility is. So that's fairly significant, and I think we're like in now pretty deep into the process of being able to add validation sort of one by one here. So now is a good time if you have things that you would like to make sure get validated before you push the import button. We do have the infrastructure to like be able to put out multiple errors from a validation of a single file, so that if you've got like 10,000 objects in a file, you can get a full listing of the things that we know how to check statically before that file tries to ingest. That's pretty cool. And what else? One second. Let me make sure that I don't have anything else that I was going to show us. I think that's it. So next sprint. Oh, I do have one more thing, which is that we did some work on the exporter again this sprint. And you can see that I've got some like pretty opaque error in this export that I tried to do for demo prep for this. I do want to say that some significant work got done on export this sprint. It is working in review applications, so we think that there's probably just some configuration of differences between the sort of bulk deployed review environments and the permanent staging environment, and we're going to try to get to the bottom of that. It is our plan to be able to support export round tripping. So I export a CSV and I re-import from that CSV with changes very soon. I think that this probably should be working quite possibly today, and then there might be some edges to sand off before we could do round tripping successfully in a reliable way. But that is a priority this sprint, or sorry, this work cycle, and I think like dovetails pretty nicely with this like bulk workflow setup. So we're really envisioning a pattern of ingest lots of content, make changes in bulk, move objects through workflow in bulk, and we want all that to be sharp, and we feel like we're getting there. In the next sprint, we're going to continue daylight work. I think we're quite close to deploying that demo application. We're quite close to being able to do at least some version of injecting micro front ends into it, and it's possible we will do some work on the Comet publication side. We have patterns for that are pretty reasonably solid, but at this stage, that application doesn't have a Solr index yet, so like exactly what we do in terms of getting that set up, it sort of remains to be seen. But we're going to continue daylight work along those lines. Our goal for the work cycle for daylight is really just to have a pretty reasonable, a term that we've been using a lot is a rubber duck, for people to squeeze and see how it works, and for us to be able to get stakeholder feedback from. And then on the Comet side, we're tying off loose ends about the project filter. We're continuing to prioritize bulk round tripping, because we think that that really creates a whole package around this bulk object handling infrastructure that we've been working on for some time now. And then we're also going to do some UI oriented work around how projects are presented. So like over in all collections, I have some projects. Oh, interesting. It's a fun. I wasn't expecting that result here. Oh, I've gone to your collections somehow. I don't have any projects in my collections. Anyway, I think that we are looking to make how projects are presented in the UI more clear. So we're going to have some discussions about what UI changes might need to take place to make it possible for users to understand the importance of projects in an intuitive UI way, and also to control the workflow role behaviors that happen in projects. I think if I click with the workflow roles button, I will crash the box today for staging, and that's a thing that we're prioritizing for the work cycle. Quite possibly, the scope of the work for the next sprint on this area will be just on conversations and scoping. And I think that's all I have for you. I'm coming up on time. Do I have any questions before I stop recording? Is there anything that anybody needs to say for us? Thank you all. Thank you if you're watching the recording. We'll look forward to seeing you in 2 weeks to do this again.